How's it going, everyone? Session here. Welcome to Final Fantasy XIV. I wanted to use this time with the release of patch notes 7.1 Crossroads to talk about a lot of the changes that we've seen with the reward system implemented since the release of the patch. There is a lot to cover and a lot to talk about, and I really want to put that into perspective while also talking about some pieces and details that they've released and announced but hasn't quite hit the mark, and there are a little bit of things that need to be further looked at and changed, and of course some things that I'm still waiting to look out for in the game as a whole. So let's get into it. Firstly, what I'm really happy about is that they've been able to figure out ways with this patch to give you a reason to go do content, albeit casual mid-core content. It doesn't really matter, but there's just content to do where you can go back and do it with friends, by yourself, and be able to work towards it. And you know, it's a bit of a grind in some case scenarios, and I'm actually really enjoying when they do that, because whenever there's new content released, everyone looks at the new shiny content and then they kind of forget about the old content, unless you want to try and get something that is like a one-time thing. Or if there is old content, then they find a way to bring it back up to modern day settings, but you can just acquire it with a much easier functionality, such as, you know, like getting materials through maps, which I'll cover in a little bit. Like if you have like a retainer and you go on like an adventure, there's a chance that the retainer, although the chance is very small, you can just acquire a material or even the item itself, and the need of actually crafting it or going to get the material through maps isn't really there anymore. There is the market board as well, where you can just buy it, but some of that stuff still goes for like quite a bit. So it is like a, like it depends how you really want to go about the content. But one thing I want to cover first and foremost is when they released these joke or figmental weapons, as they were announced. These weapons, as you can see here, are the Dark Knight Sword. These were expected to appear in the Gold Saucer. Now, because we've already got vendors in the Gold Saucer that have weapons that are kind of comedic in nature, or at least very kind of like, huh, right? I think a lot of people, myself included, the first thing we did was come here to the prize claim, check out the prize exchange for the weapons, and then looked for how much NGP it would have cost to actually acquire any of these weapons. But you find out very quickly that actually none of them are here. And it turns out that they're located in the maps system. So that's incredible, actually, because they've taken something that is a very high desire, such as the weapons that we have available through the system for the maps, and actually put it in a grindy situation. Additionally, granted, you can buy the coffers in the market board. They go for 16 to 20 million, which if you have the guild for that, then by all means. However, if you don't, then they just give you an incredible incentive to go do maps, which I'm actually a really big fan of, because maps is something that you only really do it for like the cloth that you need for the item that is available, and then you can make like the set piece or whatever, and it costs maybe like a mil, but a mil is a lot easier to acquire versus like 15 mils. So you know, it's easier to just buy that off the market board and then wear the gear or craft it yourself, and then you can just do what you gotta do. But these weapon coffers, because they're only available through maps, and as you can see here, it's like the first round, the first chamber, and we only acquired like the weapon coffer and actually went on the grind for it. So what I really enjoyed is that they've actually locked it behind a system that, granted, if you want to acquire it, you can actually like work for it, or if you have the guild, you can schlep that out as well. Now, what I am a big fan of, like I said, is when you can go back and do content repeatedly, and even if it's older content, you can at least go back and do it. I didn't think I was going to be a big fan of maps per se, but I actually decided to realize that because it's locked behind like these maps, that I need the weapons, because I was the first time I saw a Dark Knight weapon, I knew right away that I absolutely wanted it. So I worked to, you know, me and my friends, we all gathered around and had like we had 2 parties of 5, and then we were just doing maps until we could repeatedly like acquire as many coffers available, and then before you know it, we had a lot to share, and then it increased our incentive even further to go for these figmental weapons. So this is an incredible idea. I like that it's something that it's really rare to acquire because it's so highly desired, and it's not just something you can throw like MGP or Gil at. So really happy about the changes for this. I actually would like for them to go back and do this for older maps. I know that seems kind of weird, but I had like a thought about this beforehand where if you were able to, because you know the ARR areas, like the maximum level cap is like level 50, but they've actually graphically touched on the areas and even implemented like underground water like swimming, for example, that I would have liked for them to if there is maps that are available in the 2.0 areas but are like from Doncho, so they're level 100, then I think that would be like very fascinating, because even though it's like a 2.0 area, you still have reason to like at least push for the map that's in there. So let's use this like an example, because the Brock skin maps are the ones that we're doing right now, and that's how you get the figmental weapons. Let's say that there is like a time-worn figmental map, meaning that there's an increased chance maybe, or just like a possibility of getting the maps available with the weapons in mind, but they appear anywhere. But they're level 100, so the mobs that they drop, when you have to fight them for the portal, like they'll still be level 100, but they'll just be in other areas that's not like the 2.0 3.0 area. I actually would like that a lot, because it gives me a good reason to go back and go explore other areas. So even though it's level 100 and not like 70 or 80 or 60, just being able to go investigate those areas, because then I get to play the looking game, you know, where we can actually find like the, you know, where is it located on the map, and instead of it being just like Doncho area, it can be anywhere. I really would like for them to find a way to put that into life, because they absolutely did a great job making the weapon coffer be behind the map system, and further increasing my incentive to do exactly that. With the release of the new Alliance system, of course, we have the new Alliance raids. The raid is incredibly fun and incredibly just challenging, and it feels incredible. There's just nothing I have negative to say about the Alliance raid system. But what I'm really happy about is that the gear it's there and it's available. But what they've changed this time is that instead of just getting like a piece of gear, you also get like a token. In previous Alliance raids, whenever you open up a chest towards the very end of the raid series, there's going to be like, you know, 3 chests, 1 for each party, but then like a big chest, and then there's going to be like a minion, and then there'll be like 4 or 5 different orchestrion roles, which going for the roles is cool. But what I'm a fan of is the fact that now you can actually just use it. You get like a token, and you can redeem the token to acquire one of those orchestrion roles. There are about like 11 of them, instead of it being just like 3 or 4 that you get per alliance, and to roll for them, you kind of get like a guarantee on the ones that you want, which I actually really like. So for them to have brought that into this is also really cool, because it makes me happy to know that at least while you're able to do the Alliance raid content wise, you're actually getting multiple rewards. You're getting the gear pieces that drop for like Glammin for catching up for the Savage Raid tier, and item level in general. You're getting the token that you can use to augment and enhance your gear, and then you're going to be able to use that token to acquire the orchestrion rolls. The only thing that I'm hoping for, they haven't done this yet and there's no announcement for it, so it's like a me thing personally, but what I would like for them to incorporate is a way to make the Alliance gear compatible with the other Savage gear. I know that we've waited like a while for the gear to appear, but let me kind of explain to you what I'm talking about. So if we dive back a little bit, the Archangel's gear is the gear that you can acquire from doing the Alliance raid. It's currently like item level 720. Now, this is a perfect example of gear that you can at least use in comparison stats wise. It may not be good, but it just is an option. Now, what I would like for them to do is, currently with the Archangel gear with the Alliance tier, it's 720. It's not BIS, because the best in slot, like the best gear you can wear currently wise, item level wise, is 730, and weapon 735. But this currently is a piece of gear that you can wear that's 720, and it's dyeable, and that means that it's only able to ever be a 720 item. I would like for them to think about the idea of giving us either a single die option and then unlocking double die, or locking it and having it not be dieable at all, but then you can use a token of some sort to actually augment the item. So like if you're not familiar with a lot of like stuff when it comes to like augmentation, whenever a gear piece such as the 720 items that you can get from tomes, like the weekly tome pieces, those are 720 and they're not dieable. You cannot dye them, but you eventually can acquire a solution or like a piece of material that you get from doing the raid series, and you can actually augment it, and it increases its item level by 10 points and also lets it be dyeable. I would like for them to consider adding this as an option in the Alliance gear, just because it gives you even further incentive to do the content. If you like a piece of gear and you want it really badly, then you can acquire it. But then you'll find that there's an enhanced version and that you can actually augment it and then make it dyeable. I would like for them to consider that as an option, because it just gives me even further incentive to run this content repeatedly, instead of just doing it for the glam, the one-time glam, and then the tokens for the equestrian rolls. Granted, the tokens is really good for the rolls, but if they can even take it a step further, giving me a token to augment a piece like this, or even locking it behind like the twine or the shine or something, is equally just as good, because at least that way I can continue to work towards that, because you can use coins to actually trade those in. So if I can use coins to trade those in and actually augment those pieces, it'll at least turn it into 730 item level, which is not bad, because at least it's gonna be plausible to have gear item level caught up with anybody else who's been doing the raid series for so long already. Or, and even more importantly, with the ultimate on the way, you can at least check if the gear for this is good for that fight, because the gear for the ultimate will be required to be 730. In this example, the Viper and Ninja weapon, or headpiece rather, it's a scouting headpiece that has crit and then skill speed. Ninjas and Vipers don't like skill speed. So granted, it's not a good piece for the actual ultimate in terms of its stat allocation. At least it's just a piece that's available to utilize. Now, let's say, for example, if the tome piece that you can acquire it's got like determination and direct hit, and then the raid piece has crit and determination. If this piece had crit and direct hit, and that's better for Ninja and Viper, and it was 730able, then that would have been a real incentive for a player who's like a Ninja or a Viper main to run this content enough to get that piece of gear. Granted, it's going to take a couple of runs because you got to kind of keep on doing it until it pops for you, but at least you can. You have like, you know, six or eight chances, I think it is. You have 8 chances because it's one per person. So you have 8 chances for a piece of gear to drop for you to actually acquire that piece. So if they did that, it would have increased my incentive even further to keep on doing the alliance raids, because I would have had to do it for the sake of the gear. But unfortunately, because it's only 720 and dyeable already, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity. So I'm really hoping that they consider the idea of doing exactly that, where you can acquire 730 gear from the alliance raids, and it's used in preparation for the ultimate, but also lets people catch up to the savage gear. Unfortunately, the raid tier is still locked in a weekly basis. You are still required to complete M1 to do M2 to 3 to 4, etc. I would like for them to at least remove the restriction at this point, because now that the fight's been out for like a while, and now that it's a new patch, and again, we're getting ready for the ultimate, if they unlocked it now, and at least would give people the necessary like opportunity to catch up, because now you only have 2 weeks to try 2 more times to acquire the necessary gear to do what you have to do, and then the ultimate comes out. At least now, if it was possible, then people can just farm the fights necessary and be fully ready to go. I'm okay with the tome stuff still being locked on a weekly basis. This is okay. Because at this point, you know, you have like enough time, you've had enough time to acquire the gear that you needed, and then if you don't, then again, there would have been alternative options with the alliance gear if it was 730, and even the like other raid gear. Like, you may not have the best gear possible for the ultimate, but at least you're just eligible to do it. That will open up the opportunity for more players to at least give it a shot, because everyone knows that you're required to have at least the minimum item level necessary for the fight. Gear wise, people are not bound to go into the fight with the best gear in the game, but they're going to just use whatever options are available. So at least having more options to choose from would be incredible in my opinion. And again, it's okay if there's like a piece of gear that is specific from the Alliance raid or the inevitable dungeons that we'll see in the next patch that will be better for the ultimate, but just having options to choose from will be pretty nice. On the good news, Byaku's back. We have ourselves a new Unreal trial with the faux hollows. Thankfully, they brought this back. I would have liked for them to bring it back during 7.0, because at least there was something to do, but it makes sense that they would have waited since, you know, everyone's so focused on the story mode versus everything else. But now on the bright side, we do have Byaku. Now, granted that is a case scenario, I am happy that at least we have the reward systems available again where you can trade for all this really cool stuff. And they've once again added even more amazing rewards you can acquire by constantly grinding and doing these. I'm perfectly okay with the idea that you have to continue to work on this on a frequent basis, on a weekly basis. But I think it's also time to look into the opportunity of not adding necessarily more Unreal trials at once. I'm actually cool with them adding an Unreal raid. Now I think that might be something which we're considering, because, you know, the whole idea of the trial Unreals is to give people an old taste of what it was like back then with modern day graphics and DPSing and job actions and all that stuff, right? So doing a level 70 Stormblood trial at level 100 is really nice. And granted, the difficulty is relatively similar, with like maybe like a touchdown of difficulty in comparison with like damage allocation, that kind of stuff too. It is really nice to go into Party Finder and actually see that people are setting up parties to actually clear these fights. I would like to see them actually incorporate this with the raids as well, because looking at this looks really, really nice, and they can actually add more to this list, right? So we have the Jadestone Unreal, we have the new trial for the Extreme, which is Sessiion, and then if they added like they can actually add any raid, right? It doesn't have to even be Savage. It can be any, it'll be Savage version, but it will be just an Unreal. You know, whether it's like Alexander 3 or Omega 7 or, you know, Eden 1, like it doesn't matter, right? It's just being able to add that piece of content to do is just really nice, because it gives people a reason to go back and experience it. And if they want the reward for it, they can actually push for that opportunity and give all players an opportunity to do exactly just that. Now, I'm hoping that they eventually tackle this, because granted, I love Wondrous Tales and it's incredible. This Wondrous Tales, it's a little bit outdated in terms of the content available. Now, I like that they've actually continuously updated it, right? So you've got like your roulettes when you go into certain dungeons. You gotta do like an Alliance raid, you have to do some kind of raid that's usually done unsynced, solo if anything. Then there's like a modern day raid that you have to do in a party with a queuing thing, and then there's like the extreme versions, and then you have like you know, trials that are also done extremed, and then there's some kind of secret thing like a deep dungeon, and then there's PvP. I want them to look into the opportunity of creating like a Wondrous Tales Savage or something, or give us like, you know, another like Chloe, but she's more menacing, if anything, you know, add some kind of lore to it. But what I want them to do with this is make it so that you cannot do this content unsynced. I would like for them to have you, if you don't know, there is like a system that people started incorporating over the course of time where they want to re-experience the content. I think this is inspired from Unreal, which is really cool, but basically it's called Mine. Mine stands for minimum item level and then no echo. So what that literally implies is you would do a piece of content, it would be level synced, so you would find 8 players, then you would do minimum item level and then no echo. This gives you the most possible opportunity to do the content as it was intended for release at the level that it was for, with the job in mind that you're playing. Now, again, that's going to be very dependent because of what it is, but having this option is super nice, because at least that way, if you decide to go back and do old content, you can, and re-experiencing like you never thought you could before. I would like for them to find a way to take this feedback and actually make it like base kit to the game, but give people a reward for doing it. Now, obviously, people who've done this content like years and years and years ago don't have to really worry about it all too much because like it's there. But at least if you're willingly like interested in doing that piece of content, and you want to experience it, you can. Like the opportunity is just there, but people kind of choose not to because, you know, there's no reason for it, since like the reward that you get is not like super fruitful, especially with Heaven's Word and A Realm Reborn content. At least with Stormblood content, they started doing that thing where every 4 tiers, the 4th fight always rewarded you with some kind of thing you can get, like a mount and then weapons and glam, and then the eventual unlock of an ultimate. But at least if they incorporated it in Wondrous Tales, it just kind of makes this party finder glow like a lot more, right? So right now there's only like I mean, it's the morning, so it's not like a big deal, but you know, there's only like Savage content here. It's a little sad sometimes to see that the dungeon and like the trials and the raid stuff here is a little bit on the quieter side. Even during like prime time when everyone's like home from work and they're working on it, you know, it's always still like a little quiet. So what I would like for them to do with the Wondrous Tales system is give us like a second type of book. Not necessarily the same, even like if it's the same book but like different page. I would like for them to find a way to give us like an extreme or like a savage version where you have to do it like synced, min level, no echo. Now, they obviously can't do this with like dungeons like this and then alliance raids and that sort of thing. But at the same time, they technically can. So what I would like for them to do is they should do 2 dungeons that are, it doesn't matter which dungeon, just do, you know, you want to try and add like a variety scope of difficulty. So giving us 2 dungeons, you know, it can be like Sestasha and then like dead ends, like it just doesn't matter. Just do it unsynced, or do it synced, min eye level, no echo, right? We're going to say it mined from this point forward. So you do 2 dungeons mined, and like you just got to do it from start to finish. Boom. I would even be more happy if they did like a regular dungeon, like a story dungeon, and then like a high level dungeon. So those are the dungeons that are like, you know, like post MSQ dungeons. They should have 1 MSQ dungeon and then 1 post MSQ dungeon. Then they should do 2 alliance raids, where again, same thing, you do it mined. So even though you queue into like alliance roulette and then you get like Labyrinth of the Ancients, and you're like, oh cool, like I can just sit here and go through it and it's not a big deal because like I'm over like stat for it. Doing it mined is probably going to be like a lot different, and it's going to incorporate people to open up the party finder and actually find people to do that content with. And then same thing with you know, you do it for 2. You just do 2 alliance raids, and then you can have that be incorporated as well. So we would have, you know, a MSQ dungeon, post MSQ dungeon, 2 alliance raids. Then what they should do is use the second line here and then just do strictly extreme trials. It does not matter which one. They can do 2 A Realm Reborn and then like 1 Stormblood and then 1 Shadowbringers. They can do all Endwalker. It doesn't matter, but they should just pick 4 extreme trials that you have to do mine, and that way it just gives people the incentive to do all that content. Let me also say, most importantly, unlike current Wondrous Tales, granted, as you can see, I have like the 4 dungeons, I have Second Coil, I have Delta Escape, Endwalker, A Realm Reborn, Alliance Raids, right? There's M3, there's, oh my gosh, what's his name? Bismarck, sorry. There's Nidhogg, right? Tsukuyomi. These change between other players. So if I log on to like an alt, for example, or even like another like 3rd character, all of these items will be different for those other characters. It's not the same across the board for everybody, which I'm personally not a fan of, because part of these are meant to be done just through doing like your dailies, and others are meant to be done via Wondrous Tales with Party Finder. But a lot of these older pieces of content now, because we're at level 100 in Dawntrail, you can do a lot of these just unsynced on your own and solo it. Like you can easily do these 2 by yourself and solo it, and then you don't have to worry about finding people to do it with. So doing it synced and mined will actually give people the opportunity to form like a party, but also it lets you go back and learn the content, because you need to know how to do the content to actually like complete it and get that mark. As a result of this though, because it's going to be like a savage version, it's going to be much more difficult because you have to do it mined. The reward would be even higher to acquire. But unlike the rewards that you would do with the full hollows, where every reward here is like purchasable via the market board, for the most part, right? All of these pieces of like minions and mounts in here, all this stuff cannot be traded. That would be a good incentive to force the idea that you know, if you want this item that you can only acquire by doing the Wondrous Tales or even like collecting tokens, you have to do that event. And additionally, most importantly though, the book is the same for everybody, and it changes on a weekly basis. So there's another opportunity for a weekly to exist where everyone has, let's say, to do Cinder Drift Extreme. I still know that fight personally. So if I was able to put up a party finder, and since everybody has this, there's going to be multiple parties of people doing Cinder Drift. And I think that'd be really awesome. And you can keep on going in the list. So again, just to kind of quickly recap, we have like an MSQ dungeon, post MSQ dungeon, 2 alliance raids, 4 extreme trials, and then since there's so many raids to choose from, do 8 savage raids. And it can be 8 of any kind. Even if you somehow get turn 3 from coils, that's fine. That can be one that you throw in there. It's not like a big deal. But at least you just pick 8 extreme or savage raids you can pick from, and the 8 are the same across the board for everybody. And you kind of incorporate that. I might be willing to say, like, take out 1 and then do like Rival Wings, because Rival Wings is a very underrated piece of content you can do in this game, and I really hope they find a way to make it more like visual to the people to play, because Rival Wings is a lot of fun. So I would like for them to find a way to do that as well. They can simply fix that by just going to the, you know, roulette, and then under here just add Rival Wings, and then you fix that. But you know, that's a whole another thing for the future. Just like a quick check, like the Criterion Dungeons, this piece of content is exceptionally very good. It's a lot of fun. It's really challenging. It's incredible in a lot of ways. It lets you experiment a lot with what you have to do. However, the problem with this content is that all of the rewards that are locked behind the Criterion Dungeon can all be purchasable in the market board. The only exception is with Alo Alo, where you have to acquire the tome weapon to then augment it, and then you have to make it an exquisite weapon, which I'll talk about again in the near future. But exquisite weapons are available, and that's a piece of gear, and it's almost like worthy of like an ultimate weapon by design, because doing that is very difficult. Even I haven't done it yet, but I would like to. But you know, the mount rewards and the glam rewards, all that's acquirable in the market board, so there's not really like a lot of incentive to do content for Criterion. So very simply put, I would like for them to do the same thing that they're doing with some of the recent content gear, where like you have to do the content to actually acquire it. People will probably farm this and like it's fine, but it's not really heavily incentivized for anyone to do it after the one time. So again, as I said in the beginning, it's really good when you give people a reason to go back and go do your content repeatedly for something that they want really badly. People are only doing the 3rd Criterion because of the weapons that you get from the end of Endwalker. But if they somehow find a way to go back and then apply this rule for all of the other weapons that are listed for the other 2 Criterions, that'd be really cool. I'm also really hopeful that they don't they just ignore this. They really should look into the opportunity of creating more dungeons for us to go through. Granted, we might not see it on a frequent basis. You know, I'm cool with them bringing in a new one in 7.2 and then like 7.4, and that's fine. But I want them to add a lot of more content with the Criterion Dungeon in mind, because it's so good. So I just don't want them to like miss out on this at all. So fingers crossed that we can actually look into this too. One piece of information that I've learned recently is the fact that they've actually added new mounts with the hunts involved. So normally there's always one that you can acquire, and you do hunts long enough to get that one mount, and then you either do it for like materia, and then or like to cap your weeklies, and then never again, right? But for the first time ever, they've added a second mount. Now I really like this because it gives me a incentivized push to go back and go do that content, right? Once I've acquired everything I can get here, that's like a one-time pickup, the minions, the barding, the mount, right? I'm done. I don't want to go back and go do it, but now I have to, because this mount is really cool, and it's not a tough grind to get 3200 for, but because it's available now, I feel like I need to go back and go do that. So I'm really glad that they've done this. And again, it's not something you can acquire by just buying it on the market board. You get to actually like do the content to actually acquire it. I would like for them to continue doing this, because it's actually a good incentive to keep people you know, running around the world and exploring and doing content, and not necessarily sitting in Limsa or Gridania or Uldad just AFK talking about nothing, right? At least you can talk about something and whatever you're, or nothing, and then still doing stuff, you know? So I really like that as well as an idea. Now, on top of that, and an even more surprising thing, there is something that is acquirable when you're doing your collectibles. There's orange and purple scripts, and you can actually acquire these mount tokens. There used to be something called a Ronique token, which you can use to get this mount. It costs 100, but in order to get even one token, you need to acquire 1,000 orange scripts. So, you know, when you do the math, it's quite a grind, which I really enjoy that actually. But instead of it staying as a Ronique token and then having like the HP for that mount, they've actually changed it to a mount token, and on top of that they've added a second mount. The Barrel Tender is a new mount that was introduced for the patch as well, and granted both of these can be purchased. When you do the math, it's like 70 million gil to just buy this in the market board. It might be even higher than that, but if you want to do this the legit and you know, standard way, then you have to do your orange collectibles to actually farm for these tokens. This is gonna take about 100 hours to do, but again, it's something that you can passively work on. You don't have to sit down for 4 days straight and then just burn through this as quickly as possible, right? You have to actually take your time working on it. But if you, you know, like in your spare time, right, whenever you see like an opportunity to, you know, you want to watch a movie or hang out with friends and then go orange script farming, you can, right? Like this is an opportunity. And so because they changed this into a token that's just for mounts in general, I'm under the impression that they're going to add more of these, and that's perfectly fine, because granted 200 tokens is a lot. It's a grind. If you want to, you can spend 300,000 for one token in the market board. These will only increase in price over time, because that's what always happens. So it's still a really good idea that you can actually work on this and then grind it over the course of time. But adding 2 of these was also very unexpected for me, because again, once I got like enough tokens for the first one, I just never assumed it would come back. But now that I know that there's more than one, now I have to be kind of a little bit cautious and actually farm more than 200, just in case there's like a third one, you know? And then if you did that, then you can have already the next mount ready to go, and then you can easily just have it day 1 of like 7.2 patch, and then boom, you can show off your new fancy mount. So people who have this mount already, they're doing very well right now. So we're envious if anything, but again, it's only a further instance to grind for this. Now, if you don't know, it's okay, but Jonathan here is what is like an achievement vendor. So we have achievements in this game, and there's a lot to choose from. There's this tab under the characters page. There are a lot of achievements you can acquire, like a lot, and you get these points. And then I have 219 coins. Some of them are tied behind like titles and even like pieces of gear. You know, you can claim them for usage. Sometimes they're really good at what they do, but eventually you can spend those tokens that you acquire, and you can actually make a change to it. Now, there is actually a lot of stuff that you can acquire here, but nobody knows about this because people don't really come here, except for when you're either doing like your summoner job quest or something, right? But there's actually stuff you can get here. This is where you can like talk about Fathead or the Goblin Cap. You can get the ribbon. There's no weapons yet, but they've, for the first time ever, used this currency system that we've had since the beginning of time, and actually tied the watering can emotes along with framework kits to this vendor. Now, it makes me extraordinarily happy to see this finally get some kind of use, because there's always new achievements being added to the game every patch. It's tied to everything, and there's honestly so many to choose from. Achievement hunting is not something that people like generally strive for immensely. However, if you did come up with something that is you know, because there's only like a cap you can have, right? Like if there's like, let's say for example, if there's only 2,000 achievement points you can acquire, there's never going to be a reward that has like 2001, right? Like you'll never be able to do that. But I've had these for so long, because once I've acquired all the rewards, because there's minions and there's even like a mount to pick with the Deathclaw, the hand thing. Once I've acquired all these minions and all these mounts and bardings, I've never come back here until I was looking for the watering can emote and realized that it was here of all places. And same thing with the framer kits. So it's really, really nice to know that they've looked at this system and been like, oh, we can put stuff here too. So now realistically, I don't need them to create a new system or opportunity to actually give me a incentive of something. It's cool to just have this as well. Now, if they try and go a little over the edge and add like a 100 point item, but it's like super, super rare, I'm cool with that, because obviously I have 219 to spare, and I want to use these currency points where realistically I should have 0 if I had every reward available and had every single achievement available, right? At least that's just like an incentive. Now, they shouldn't technically do that because like it's gonna be like a lot, but if they did that though, then there could be a title attached to it, and then they can take that even further. So the achievement system is, this was the last thing I ever expected them to do, and I was absolutely mind blown when I found out that there was a crowd of people here on day 1, and I was so confused, like, why are there so many people here? And then I checked the vendor, and then I found this emote. I was absolutely amazed by it. So I absolutely need them to continue using these certificates, because it's just so nice. This is such a good idea for them, and they can continue to add even more stuff with time, and it gives people an incentive to do achievements, whether it's for mounts or for titles or just going for like a thing, like even like ultimates. I know that's kind of weird, but like you get achievement points for completing ultimates. Now it may be just one, but it's just one that you can acquire, right? Like now it's not just the fancy title and the weapon, you can also acquire like an emote for it, which I'm a really big fan of. So honestly, there's a lot that they did with this patch that was really cool, and I'm really happy what they did. So all in all, I just need them to add more content, that not necessarily more like by the amount, but just more opportunities to do stuff that doesn't require just at the market board. I think we got a little catered too much by Endwalker, especially with Criterion, where everything you can just buy with gil. Like if I have 100 million gil to spare and I want something that badly, I'll just buy it, right? I don't actually like that. I want the game to tell me to go do something content wise to acquire something, and make it required. Like if I want to acquire a mount, I need to go do this dungeon, or if I want to acquire this minion, I have to do this map. It would be really cool to see them kind of spread that across the entire universe, because obviously we have areas like Ishgard and Azizla, right? And then there's Azim Steppe, and then there's like Yerbania to like Shadowbringers on the first to Endwalker, right? A lot of those areas now are very empty and barren because like it's not current content. The only reason why anyone would be doing that area in the first place now is because either there's maps to do and you're doing it for fun, or people are going through MSQ. But there's no reason now for anybody on a current level of doing Dawntrail content to go back and go do the old expansion area stuff. And again, this is only the first patch. There's obviously a lot more stuff to come. We're going to see more raids, more deep dungeons, more trials, more dungeons. The cosmic exploration stuff is on the way. Hopefully we see the field operation thing, like the Bojin 2.0 for Dawntrail, if anything, because that's gonna be a thing, right? We don't know what the relic is, so there's still a lot of content to come, and I know that Square is like working on all of it, so just hopefully we can see a lot of more things like this, because right now they're doing incredibly well, giving us more opportunities to do content and giving us a reason to keep on like playing the game and acquiring something outside of like the typical market board. So there's that. I'm having so much fun, honestly. I'm literally doing maps tonight. I need more of these. I need more of these weapons. I'm trying to get the Gunbreaker one, and I want to get the Dark Knight one for my other character, and even the Astro Snow Globe, right? Like a lot of really cool stuff. So it's okay that they add more opportunities to do stuff like this, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope that you are as well. So thank you for watching and tuning in, and I hope to see you guys in the future, and hopefully we can do some content. So I'm looking forward to it. Take care.